again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Experience Maker Show. I'm Dan Gingiss, your host. I'm a customer experience speaker, coach, author, and podcaster, and I am so excited to be here with you again this week. Every week, we are now 66 weeks into this show. I can't believe it. When I started it, I had no idea that we were going to keep going this long. But hey, as long as we have a continuing lineup of amazing guests, I'm going to bring you great content every week. And I'm telling you, I was just talking off stage with our guest today, and I said, I can't believe it took me this many episodes to get you on the show. I'm super excited to have him here today. Dennis Wakabayashi is the Director of Customer Experience Solutions for RR Donnelley and a customer experience speaker and expert in his own right. And super, super excited to have him here. Welcome, Dennis. How are you doing, man?
Hi, Dan. Wow, 66 episodes. That is fantastic. Congratulations. I mean, that's a huge number of shows. I'm just glad to finally be here.
Well, I guess it just means I know a lot of people, right?
Oh, yeah, and you've got a lot of stamina and endurance.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Hey, you and I go way back, and so I know all of your accolades, but why don't you take a moment and pat yourself on your back for the rest of the audience. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, well, thanks, Dan. Yeah, we do go way back. My real focus is always just helping brands connect customer experiences, multiple touch points. I think I've made a number of the usual lists in terms of top this or that. But I think what really differentiates me from many of the other folks is my ability to leverage the scale and capabilities of RR Donnelley and data to unite so many diverse customer touch points. And I'm lucky enough to be friends with you. So being friends with Dan Gingiss has got to be my top accolade.
Oh, please. You're too kind. You're too kind. Well, I love that you are one of those, I think, increasingly rare CX influencers that are doing it from the inside, that you are working for a large company, international company, and you're not only doing CX every day and helping your customers do it, but then you are also a thought leader outside of RR Donnelley and kind of helping lots of people think about customer experience differently. How do you kind of divide up your personal brand and your professional brand? Or do you?
That is a fantastic question. You know, I think what I've been lucky to have is a management team at RR Donnelley who recognizes the importance of doing what's best for the customer. They've created a position for me where I am able to suggest and advise clients on the best ideas that I have to solve their problems. And I'm not necessarily beholden to one solution or another. So it creates, I think, for the public perception, a little bit of a blurred line, but I value RRD's thinking there because letting me do the best work I can for any brand is an outstanding choice for them. So on one hand, I always leverage the scale and the capabilities of RRD wherever possible, but I have the freedom to find startups or unique technology solutions that might help others in the market. So I think that's where I think, to your point, RRD is really about delivering enterprise scale CX. And then my persona is really about delivering innovation or finds that I come across, like you, as I meet all these different people. I listen for these great solutions, and I'm thankful that RRD lets me bring both to the market.
Cool. So tell us a little more about RRD. I mean, a lot of times I imagine a lot of people think of it as a printing company, but as you and I have discussed, it's so much more than that now today.
Yeah. So thank you for letting me tell this story. What I find amazing about RRD is RRD started, a lot of people think of us as printing the phone book. So that's your name, address, phone number. But as a CX person or a marketing person, what you start thinking about is if RRD for 150 years has been handling first-party data, name, address, phone number, personally identifiable information, as they grew and acquired other companies, of course, they branched on out to direct marketing or in-store marketing or marketing automation, data and analytics. So as RRD made these continuing steps to grow towards a robust set of customer experiences, all along the way, they maintained data hygiene and compliance. And so what that means is now RRD is in a position to work with enterprise clients, safely work with their data, and deliver personalized marketing, which is a very unique position. I've had an opportunity to work at some of the other global ad agencies who were not as comfortable handling data. So RRD really is every customer experience you can think of, from printing a label to maybe a invoice from enterprise all the way up to in-store marketing automation, the whole suite. And my job really as a new person at RRD is to connect all of these point solutions into a holistic customer experience. So I guess, just represent Marcom efficiencies and savings at the end of the day.
All right, so there's a few things that you said there that I want to follow up on. The first is you mentioned the word safely as you were describing handling data. And I think you and I have talked about this, but it's my belief that one of the outcomes of the pandemic has been that safety and security is going to be a theme of customer experience for years to come. And it goes beyond being concerned about a virus, but into physical safety, data security, financial safety, all that sort of thing. And I think that customers have basically figured out that they don't want to do business with companies where they don't feel safe, and whatever your definition of safe is. So tell me a little bit about how that plays a role into the experience, that you guys have the capabilities of keeping all that data safe.
Yeah, I would agree with you about safety, and I would probably extend that to the word trust. So I think what we saw with Facebook was, while they're a giant company with a lot of great data handling procedures and security features, I think that they are under a lot of scrutiny for compliance. So there we have a brand that probably is at the top tier in terms of data handling and privacy, although they lost trust. And what I think is the difference between RR Donnelley is 150 years of handling people's information, doing it in a responsible way, has maintained a level of trust. And that trust allows us to then tap into this safety mentality that's out there, whether that's our experiences with the groceries during the pandemic, as groceries sort of pioneered this idea of social distancing inside a shopping environment, whether it's the things that we do now to help people get back to the office. We provide these care kits that welcome employees back. And those care kits say a couple of things to employees. We care about you, you can trust us, and we believe in safety as well. So there you see a culture of RRD that they apply trust not just to the data, but also to the work that we do for clients. And we have adapted quite well in the post-COVID or during COVID environment to speak to that safety and trust.
Yeah. All right. So the second thing was, you were talking about different personalization, and you mentioned the experience around, and you said a label. Right. And so you've probably seen that I love talking about communication as a really critical component to customer experience. Right. I think there might be some people watching that say, well, okay, but you're printing a letter or a label or a sign. Like, what does that have to do with customer experience? So share your thoughts for me on and for the audience on why the stuff that you guys do is such a critical part to the overall experience.
You know, you're right. And I'll just say for you, Dan, particularly, I think you are extraordinarily gifted at creating personal connections. I still remember getting a handwritten note from you after one of our last engagements. And there's an example, right? Here we are talking on podcasts, on video, doing this digital thing during the pandemic. But yet you still took the time to send a handwritten note after one of our engagements. And it's that level of communication and personalization beyond other things that make me have great feelings about you. But I would say when it comes to RRD, what we do is we attempt to provide quality execution on the communication, and we partner and collaborate with agencies or brands to craft moments that matter for their clients. So on one hand, I would say that execution is certainly part of it, but the empathy that goes along with it is what genuinely makes the connection between two people or a person and a brand. And I think you do that fantastically.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you. I think you do it as well, very much. And, it's interesting because I've been having some conversations lately, and that I love sitting at the intersection of CX and marketing because my background is in marketing. And I've been thinking lately about this idea in both of those fields where we talk about personas. And I'm really troubled by that concept because I think about the fact that, if I'm being placed in a persona, I'm a, mid 40s white male in Chicago. And I'm thinking to myself, not much about that actually describes me and who I am and what I like, right? It's like, if this is the group that you've put me in because you're targeting that for your marketing campaign, the problem is that, you're going to find 10,000 people who are mid 40s white males in Chicago, and they're all different people. They all like different things. They all have different backgrounds and, family situations, favorite sports teams, whatever it is. And I think that one of the things that companies have, the ones that are doing a really good job at experience, are treating every customer as their own persona, not as a group of customers. And that's hard to do. And I think that it does require technology, which you guys provide a lot of. But talk about how you think personalization has expanded recently, and I think has a slightly different, definition or meaning than it did in the past.
Dan, you're exactly right. So I know both of us are friends also with James Dodkins, and I'll give you two examples when I talk to people about this personalization and persona. James Dodkins has this great view of, if you think of a prince in England, you either in your mind think of Prince Charles or you think of Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness. Both princes in England, totally different people, totally different needs. And I also, because I'm a Star Wars nerd, that's getting two different people wrong. But when I think of personas also, you could get Anakin Skywalker, who's on one hand, he's Anakin saving the galaxy, and on the other hand, he's Darth Vader ruling the galaxy. And that's the exact same person. So not only do we have to pay attention to personalization, getting the right person, the right message, but our personalities change throughout the day or throughout our lifetimes. So really, I think what the future is behavioral targeting, understanding where people are in the moment. And I think you gather that data or that intelligence or sympathy for a customer from understanding their journeys in real time. So we used to do journey maps that really were great at segmenting audiences, maybe drilling down to some better narratives or conversations we could have with them. But I think in the future, what we're going to see more of, and I'm already seeing it, is live behavioral targeting that understands that certain customers, let's say in the healthcare industry, are having a little bit of a crisis when they weren't 6 months ago. And we can address that in a more intimate way, in a more careful way. So to your point, as things go on, if we can balance privacy versus personalization honorably or equitably, I think we will see target audience segments and personas of one at scale.
Yeah, and I think the benefit here, or maybe something that is helping this along, is that we know that younger generations seem to be more willing to give up on that privacy for a personalized experience. It's a trade-off, right? And we have to give up some data if we want some personalization. And I think that at least as the younger generations have come on, the millennials and the Gen Zs, there seems to be a higher willingness for that. And yeah, you still expect that your data is kept safe and that it's not abused, but I do think it presents opportunities. And what I would say, even for B2B companies, is it may be just as simple as getting to know your customers on a little bit more of a personal level, and knowing their pets' names and knowing their kids' names and knowing what their favorite sports team is and their alma mater and whatever, because these are all places that you can then create an experience down the road. I always, my favorite data example is people's birthdays, and I think about how many organizations have my birthday on file somewhere because I told it to them, and then I think about how many organizations remember to wish me a happy birthday, and it's almost none. And so why do they collect that data? What do they need with it, and why aren't they using it? And so that's where I think there's some really interesting opportunities, not to be creepy, but to be genuine and to use the data that we have for good.
I just want to jump in there. As you were talking, I was thinking the birthday email. It's still one of the very best tactics to create one incremental sale each year. It's so easy to say happy birthday to someone. And if we're being totally honest, my whole career in customer experience started with a birthday email that didn't go right. And so it's always indelibly etched in my mind how easy it is to get that incremental sale, how just even, sorry to get all excited, but one, from the customer POV, yes, a personalized birthday message is great. But from a business standpoint, birthdays are an easy thing to forecast in terms of supply and demand if you have them in your database. So the birthday is a perfect example, Dan, of how personalization can be an active part of happiness for customers and brands.
All right, now, come on, you teed this up. I can't let you go without telling us what about this birthday email screwed up. I'm interested to hear.
Well,
what's the story?
So basically, it was my grandmother's birthday. She loved to get rotisserie chicken. I was in charge of CRM at a national rotisserie chicken chain. So I made sure she got this email that had a free chicken in it for her birthday. And when we went to redeem the coupon for her, the store was out of chickens. And these chickens, they're all natural, never frozen, take an hour and a half to cook. So you can't get them while you wait, which not having chickens in the store was also my CEO's pet peeve. So all of a sudden my grandmother was upset about it. My wife was upset about it. My CEO was upset about it. And it was like right at that moment where I was thinking, if I don't personally figure out what went wrong in this scenario and how to balance supply and demand, I'll be perplexed for the rest of my life, or I may never stop hearing about it. So, and that's really what started me on my journey. I spent 2 years with the finance and supply chain and logistics teams trying to figure out how you could use these emails to forecast and predict customer need at the store. And that also is how I learned to be more efficient in terms of less waste, better cost efficiencies for marketing budgets and the like. So it really was all about a birthday rotisserie chicken email for me.
I love it. It's so amazing that the types of stories that get people interested in customer service or customer experience. That's a great one, Dennis. All right, let's come off of RRD for a little while and talk about Dennis, the CX influencer, customer service influencer of the decade or millennium or whatever, all the awards that you've won. Talk about kind of where do you sit with your personal brand? What are you focused on right now? What's really interesting to you?
Wow, that's very interesting question you would ask. How perceptive? I've been thinking about it for the back half of this year. I think Dan, I think you're probably one of the very last podcasts or shows I'm going to probably be on. I've decided to spend the rest of my time this year focusing on teaching. So teaching students at universities about modern marketing. I'll be teaching, I think alongside you, we'll both be at CCW this year. I'll be teaching the CX journey mapping workshops and how executives can use CX in their organizations. But I think where I'm going to start heading is less in spreading the word about customer experience and more about teaching executives or students how to implement it. I think we've come to the point in the evolution of CX, where we're ready to really have the conversations about development. We look back, CX as a fundamental business practice has been mature since 1994. I think we got a real burst of energy with Jean Bliss when she came out with Chief Customer Officer. It gave us this perspective about how business people, we could adopt this framework. But even then, we're talking about 10 years ago when she had Chief Customer Officer 1.0. It hasn't been that long since Chief Customer Officer 2.0. And now we're just getting to the conversations. And I think kudos to you for putting the light on this. How does the data work? How do we personalize for one or a target or a segment? How do we weave customer touchpoints together? I think this conversation is a perfect example of how it's time for us now to stop broadcasting so much about the promise of CX and really talk about educating a generation of executives who can deliver it.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I think about, again, this intersection of marketing and CX, because I think what marketing's role has continued to evolve in CX. And to me, it sort of plays two distinct roles. The first is kind of, as you say, is that marketing really is the promise of CX. I mean, a lot of what we're selling, certainly we're selling products, but a lot of what marketers and advertisers are selling is the feeling that you're going to have when you do business with us. You know, I always point to BMW as the ultimate driving experience, right? That's a pretty big promise in a marketing campaign. And the thing is that we got to make sure that what we promise we can actually deliver on and hopefully over deliver on. Yeah. The second piece is that I think marketing has started to realize that often the advertising or marketing piece that a customer sees or a prospect sees is the beginning of the experience. It's the first experience that they have with a company, especially with these upstart companies and the new entrepreneurial ventures where, you know, the only advertising they're doing is a Facebook ad, right? But you see that ad and you see this product, you're like, wow, that's really cool. I got to try that. And you never knew the product existed 5 minutes ago. But that's the first experience now. And so what we're realizing is the customer experience begins, the clock starts right then, because that ad got my attention. It gave me an experience. And now I want to go in deeper and I want to have a closer relationship with this company, which may involve me purchasing something. And so the customer experience doesn't start at the purchase. It starts well before that. And I think that's where marketing has such an important role to play. I also love your points about implementation. As you know, I have a new book coming out in the fall. And, you know, one of the things that I really wanted to make sure of was that I was not just waving the flag for customer experience, but trying to show people how to implement it. And that's what I did with my first book in social media customer service, right? That it's like, hey, you know, you make the point that this is important, but show me how to do this. And while I agreed CX has been around for a while, it is still amazing to me how few companies are good at it. And all you have to do is survey any group of people. I do it almost every time I'm on stage. I will, at a keynote, I will ask the audience, who remembers the last time they were wowed by a brand and couldn't wait to tell somebody about it? And no matter how big the audience is, it's like 4 hands raised every time. And then I say, now, who remembers the last time you were disappointed by a brand? Every hand goes up. Because most of us were disappointed by a brand this month, this week, maybe even today, because it happens so often. So help me unpack that you're absolutely right. This CX thing is not new. We're not talking about some new innovation that came out in 2021. It's been around, but why the dragging of the feet, and why do we still have so many poor experiences?
I would say that that's a great question. And the reason I think we're coming to production maturity in CX has a lot to do with the smartphone. And what we saw, particularly during the pandemic, is touchless happen. So in a touchless world where we bring in our phones and we're able to now observe or experience customers' behaviors at physical locations. So the pandemic, in a lot of ways, bridge the gap between the digital universe, marketing universe, and the retail universe. And those two connection points, I think, they facilitated a lot of new opportunities for customer experiences to be understood. So I think the short story there is, in the last few years, digital technologies have given us better tools to understand customers. And it's because we understand behaviors of people related to brands better that we're able to tailor our engagements, our reactions, and also our outreach to be more relevant to them. It's the digital data that has been the catalyst for customer experience really working. If you think 5 years ago, even, we were still struggling to get any kind of data, for even getting data dashboards adopted in an enterprise was tough 5 years ago. And now people at enterprises, they don't want any more dashboards.
Yeah, so exactly. The last thing I need is another report, right?
Yeah.
That's for sure. Awesome. Well, Dennis, we're coming up on time. Please tell us, how can we stay in touch with you? I noticed you changed your Twitter handle lately. So share with us how people can follow you or connect with you.
Okay. So Dan, it's so funny. I might change my Twitter handle again, but right now I'm your business bro. And here's why. On my social media team that I work with, we were thinking about making the move to TikTok. And I was thinking, I want to be relevant to students. And I want to do TikToks that share knowledge to this younger demographic. And I just thought, I'm so much of a gym bro. Somebody said, why don't you just be your business bro? And I was like, all right, I'll try it. But ultimately, people can reach me at denniswakabayashi.com. That's the best way. And you can always ask Dan Dingus where I am also.
I'll be happy to point them in your direction for sure. Awesome. Well, Dennis, great to see you as always. Always love chatting with you. Let's do it again, hopefully in person sometime soon. That would be great to hang out.
At CCW.
And best of luck to you and RRD, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, thank you also for joining me. I do want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date information on my upcoming book. It is The Experience Maker: How to Create Remarkable Experiences That Your Customers Can't Wait to Share. It is available for pre-order now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Walmart.com, Indie Publisher. I can't remember what that site's called, but any of them, you can go get it. And I want to give you an offer just for this group. If you would like an advanced signed copy of the book, just email me your pre-order receipt, and I will get you out an advanced copy so you can read it and start implementing before your competition. Get a head start, because they're not going to be able to get the book until September 14th, but you can get your hands on an early copy. So once again, I also want to introduce you to next week's guest. It's Tony Amante Shepers. Tony is the Director of Operations and Customer Experience at Curbside Kitchen, and he's a very interesting dude, another handsome bald guy like me, so we like inviting them onto the show as well. So we'll have Tony next week. I also, before I leave, would not be remiss. I need to apologize to Dennis because I accidentally demoted him at RRD. He's a vice president of customer experience, not a director of customer experience. So just wanted to make that correction. Anyway, I'm Dan Gingiss. We'll see you next week and every week on The Experience Maker, Thursdays at noon Eastern. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a great rest of your week and a terrific weekend.